Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, where we are in the middle of the discussions between Rämänanda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahäprabhu. Some of the most profound sections so far that we've read. It just keeps getting more and more profound, of course. We hope that you're all safe and well and happy in all respects as the world goes rushing down and by. This Caitanya-caritämrta, Caitanya-caritämrta, perfect scripture, was the life and soul of Bhaktivinoda Thakur when he was looking for the absolute truth, and his search took him through all the different teachings of the world and the religions of the world, and finally he came to the point, got the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Caitanya-caritämrta, and it really changed his life, obviously, and then he changed the whole Vaishnava culture back, purified it back to the original teachings and the original practices of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. Then, of course, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Caitanya-caritämrta, he said openly that it was his life and soul also. And our own dear Srila Prabhupada said that the Caitanya-caritämrta is the perfect scripture, and that it was his life and soul and only solace when he was traveling back on the ship to America, and also the first year in New York City, just wandering and trying to start something, but he got solace from the Caitanya-caritämrta. So in that way, this literature is so high and so sweet and so deep that no matter who you are, where you are, if you take shelter of it, you will get the goal of life. In fact, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur glorified the Caitanya-caritämrta in this way. In due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or, if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam. But under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after it is subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastra. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. So the Lord has entered through the mouth of Rämänanda Roy and his questions. He's come to the different levels of spontaneous love for Krishna and the different relationships with Krishna. And we just heard a very long purport, in other words, in which Rämänanda Roy was explaining how there's different relationships and different tastes and different ways that Krishna reciprocates with the souls. Now we've reached text 91, which, even though it's in this high place, is a Bhagavad Gita verse. Yeyatam mam prapadyante tangs tataiva bhajamyaham mamabart manubartante manushyak partha sarvashaha. According to Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 4:11, as all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. 92. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10:32-22, it is said that Lord Krishna cannot proportionately reciprocate devotional service in the Madhurya Ras. Therefore, he always remains a debtor to such devotees. Remember, we just heard before this that the Madhurya Ras is considered the greatest or the highest because it contains all of the other qualities of all the other rasas, plus a degree of intimacy that none of the others have. So this is the text 10:32-22. Napariyeham nidavadyasam yujam swasadu krityam vibhuda yushapivaha ya bhajam na maj ya mabhajan durajageha shrinkala sangvrichyatadva patiyatu sadhuna. When the gopis were overwhelmed with dissatisfaction due to Lord Krishna's absence from the Rasa-lila, Krishna returned to them and told them, "My dear gopis, our meeting is certainly free of all material contamination. I must admit that in many lives it would be impossible for me to repay my debt to you because you have cut off the bondage of family life just to search for me. Consequently, I am unable to repay you. Therefore, please be satisfied with your honest activities in this regard." Text 94. Although Krishna's unparalleled beauty is the topmost sweetness of love of Godhead, his sweetness increases unlimitedly when he is in the company of the gopis. Consequently, Krishna's exchange of love with the gopis is the topmost perfection of love of Godhead. Purport. Krishna and his devotees become perfectly intimate in conjugal love of Godhead. In other mellows, the Lord and the devotees do not enjoy transcendental bliss as perfectly. The next verse, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-6, will illustrate this point. Text 95. Tatra tishu shubhe tabir Bhagavan devaki sutaha madhye maninam haimanam mahamarkatato yata mahamarakato yata. Although the son of Devaki, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all kinds of beauty, when he is among the gopis, he nonetheless becomes more beautiful, for he resembles a marakata jewel surrounded by gold and other jewels. Text 96. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "This is certainly the limit of perfection, but please be merciful to me and speak more, if there is more." Text 97. Rämänanda replied, "Until this day, I did not know anyone within this material world who could inquire beyond this perfectional stage of devotional service." 98. Among the loving affairs of the gopis, Ramananda Roy continued, Srimati Radharani's love for Sri Krishna is topmost. Indeed, the glories of Srimati Radharani are highly esteemed in all revealed scriptures. Text 99. Yata Radha Priya Vishnos Tasyak Kundam Priyam Tata Sarvagopishu Saivaika Vishnor At Yatavalabha. Just as Srimati Radharani is most dear to Sri Krishna, her bathing place, Radha Kund, is also dear to him. Among all the gopis, Srimati Radharani is supermost and very dear to Lord Krishna. Purport. This verse is from the Padma Purana and is included in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita 245 by Srila Rupa Goswami. It also appears in the Adi-lila, chapter 4, verse 215, and again in the Madhya-lila, chapter 18, verse 8. Text 100. Anarayadito nunam Bhagavan Harir Ishwaraha Yanno Vihaya Govinda Prito Yam Anayadraha. When the gopis began to talk among themselves, they said, "Dear friends, the gopi who was taken away by Krishna, who has been taken away by Krishna to a secluded place, must have worshipped the Lord more than anyone else." Purport. The name Radha is derived from this verse, Bhagavatam 10:30-28, from the words Anaya Radhita, meaning by her the Lord is worshipped. Sometimes the critics of Srimad Bhagavatam find it difficult to find Radharani's holy name in that book, but the secret is disclosed here in the word Aradhita, from which the name Radha has come. Of course, the name of Radharani is directly mentioned in other Puranas. This gopi's worship of Krishna is topmost, and therefore her name is Radha, or the topmost worshipper. Text 101. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Please speak on. I am very happy to hear you, because a river of unprecedented nectar is flowing from your mouth." Text 102. During the Rasa dance, Sri Krishna did not exchange loving affairs with Srimati Radharani due to the presence of the other gopis. Because of the dependence of the others, the intensity of love between Radha and Krishna was not manifest. Therefore, he stole her away. Purport. Out of fear of the other gopis, Lord Sri Krishna took Srimati Radharani to a secluded place. In this regard, the verse Kangsariraphi, verse 106 in this chapter, will be quoted from the Gita Govinda of Jayadev Goswami. Text 103. If Lord Krishna rejected the company of the other gopis for Srimati Radharani, we can understand that Lord Sri Krishna has intense affection for her. Rämänanda Roy continued, "Please therefore hear from me about the glories of Srimati Radharani's loving affairs. They are beyond compare within these three worlds. Finding herself treated equally with all the other gopis, Srimati Radharani displayed her tricky behavior and left the circle of the rasa dance. Missing Srimati Radharani's presence, Krishna became very unhappy and began to lament and wander throughout the forest to search her out. Text 106. Kangsarir apisangsara vasana badashrinkalam radhang adhaya hridaye tatyaja brajasundarihi. Lord Krishna, the enemy of Kamsa, took Srimati Radharani within his heart, for he desired to dance with her. Thus he left the arena of the rasa dance in the company of all the other beautiful damsels of Braja. Text 107. Being afflicted by the arrow of Cupid and unhappily regretting his mistreating Srimati Radharani, Madhava, Lord Krishna, began to search for her along the banks of the Yamuna River. When he failed to find her, he entered the bushes of Vrindavan and began to lament. Purport. These two verses are from the Gita Govinda 3.1.2, 1 and 2, written by Jayadev Goswami. Simply by considering these two verses, one can understand what nectar there is in such dealings. It is exactly like freeing a mine of nectar. 109. Although Krishna was in the midst of hundreds of thousands of gopis during the rasa dance, he still kept himself in one of his transcendental forms by the side of Srimati Radharani. Lord Krishna is equal to everyone in his general dealings, but due to the conflicting ecstatic love of Srimati Radharani, there were opposing elements. 111. Aher ivagati premna swabhava kutila bhavet ato hetor ahetoscha yunor mana udanchati. The progress of loving affairs between a young boy and a young girl is like the movement of a snake. On account of this, two types of anger arise between a young boy and girl: anger with cause and anger without cause. Purport. During the rasa dance, one form of Krishna was between every two gopis, but by the side of Srimati Radharani, there was only one Krishna. Although this was the case, Srimati Radharani still manifested disagreement with Krishna. This verse is from the Ujjvala Nilamani, Sringara Beda Katana, 102, written by Srila Rupa Goswami. Text 112. When Radharani left the rasa dance out of anger and resentment, Lord Sri Krishna became very anxious because he could not see her. 113. Lord Krishna's desire in the Rasa-lila circle is perfectly complete, but Srimati Radharani is the binding link in that desire. The rasa dance does not shine in the heart of Krishna without Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he also gave up the circle of the rasa dance and went out to search for her. 115. When Krishna went out to search for Srimati Radharani, she wandered here and there. Not finding her, he became afflicted by the arrow of Cupid and began to lament. Since Krishna's lusty desires were not satisfied, even in the midst of hundreds of thousands of gopis, and he was thus searching after Srimati Radharani, we can easily imagine how transcendentally qualified she is. 117. After hearing this, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said to Rämänanda Roy, "That for which I have come to your residence has now become an object of truth in my knowledge." Text 118. Now I have come to understand the sublime goal of life and the process of achieving it. Nevertheless, I think that there is something more ahead, and my mind is desiring to have it. Text 119. Kindly explain the transcendental features of Krishna and Srimati Radharani. Also explain the truth of transcendental mellows and of the transcendental form of love of Godhead. Kindly explain all these truths to me, but for yourself, no one can ascertain them. Sri Rämänanda Roy replied, "I do not know anything about this. I simply vibrate the sound you make me speak." Text 122. I simply repeat like a parrot whatever instructions you have given me. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Who can understand your dramatic performances? You inspire me within the heart and make me speak with the tongue. I do not know whether I am speaking well or badly. Text 124. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I am a Mayavadi in the renounced order of life, and I do not even know what transcendental loving service to the Lord is. I simply float in the ocean of Mayavad philosophy. Text 125. Due to the association of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, my mind became enlightened. Therefore, I asked him about the truths of transcendental loving service to Krishna. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told me, I do not actually know about the topics of Lord Krishna. They are all known only to Rämänanda Roy, but he is not present here. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, after hearing about your glories, I have come to your place, but you are offering me words of praise out of respect for a sannyasi, one in the renounced order of life. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that a mundane person, being enriched by mundane Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that a mundane person, being enriched by mundane opulences, must always know that the transcendental opulences of the advanced devotees are far more important than the materialistic opulences of a person like himself. A materialistic person with material opulences should not be very proud or puffed up before a transcendental devotee. If one approaches a transcendental devotee on the strength of one's material heritage, opulence, education, and beauty, and does not offer respect to the advanced devotee of the Lord, the Vaishnava devotee may offer formal respect to such a materially puffed up person, but he may not deliver transcendental knowledge to him. Indeed, the devotee sees him as a non-Brahmana or Shudra. Such a puffed up person cannot understand the science of Krishna. A proud person is deceived in transcendental life, and despite having attained a human form, will again glide into hellish conditions. By his personal example, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains how one should be submissive and humble before a Vaishnava, even though one may be situated on a high platform. Such is the teaching of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Acharya of the world, the supreme spiritual master and teacher. Text 128. Whether one is a Brahmana, a sannyasi, or a Shudra, regardless, kiba vipra, kiba nyasi, Shudra keninoi, ye Krishna tattva veta, se guru hoy. Whether one is a Brahmana, a sannyasi, or a Shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. Purport. This verse is very important to the Krishna consciousness movement. In his Amrita Pravaha Bhasha, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that one should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born a Brahmana and was situated in the topmost spiritual order as a sannyasi, it was improper for him to receive instructions from Srila Rämänanda Roy, who belonged to the Shudra caste. To clarify this matter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Rämänanda Roy that knowledge of Krishna consciousness is more important than caste. In the system of Varnashram Dharma, there are various duties for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. Actually, the Brahmana is supposed to be the spiritual master of all other Varnas, or classes, but as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, everyone is capable of becoming a spiritual master, because knowledge in Krishna consciousness is on the platform of the spirit soul. To spread Krishna consciousness is on the platform of spirit soul, of the spirit soul. To spread Krishna consciousness, one need only be cognizant of the science of the spirit soul. It does not matter whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Sannyasi, Grihastha, or whatever. If one simply understands this science, he can become a spiritual master. It is stated in the Hari Bhakti Vilas that one should not accept initiation from a person who is not in the Brahminical order if there is a fit person in the Brahminical order present. This instruction is meant for those who are overly dependent on the mundane social order and is suitable for those who want to remain in mundane life. If one understands the truth of Krishna consciousness and seriously desires to attain transcendental knowledge for the perfection of life, he can accept a spiritual master from any social status, provided the spiritual master is fully conversant with the science of Krishna. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur also states that it doesn't matter whether one is situated as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Vanaprastha, Grihastha, or Sannyasi. If he is conversant in the science of Krishna, he can become a spiritual master as Vartma Pradarshaka Guru, Diksha Guru, or Shiksha Guru. The spiritual master who first gives information about spiritual life is called the Vartma Pradarshaka Guru. The spiritual master who initiates according to the regulations of the Shastras is called the Diksha Guru. And the spiritual master who gives instructions for elevation is called the Shiksha Guru. Factually, the qualifications of a spiritual master depend on his knowledge of the science of Krishna. It does not matter whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Sannyasi, or Shudra. This injunction given by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is not at all against the injunctions of the Shastras. In the Padma Purana, it is said, Na Shudra Bhagavad Bhaktas Tepi Bhagavatotamaha Sarva Varneshu Te Shudra Yena Bhakta Janardane. One who is actually advanced in spiritual knowledge of Krishna is never a Shudra, even though he may have been born in a Shudra family. However, even if a Vipra or Brahmana is very expert in the 6 Brahminical activities, Patana, Patana, Yajana, Dana, Pratigraha, and is also well versed in the Vedic hymns, he cannot become a spiritual master unless he is a Vaishnava. But if one born in the family of Chandalas, yet is well versed in Krishna consciousness, he can become a guru. These are the Shastric injunctions, and strictly following these injunctions, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, as a Grihastha named Sri Vishwambara, was initiated by a sannyasi guru named Ishvara Puri. Similarly, Sri Nityananda Prabhu was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, a sannyasi. According to others, however, he was initiated by Lakshmi Pati Tirtha. Advaita Acharya, although a Grihastha, was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, and many devotees born in the caste Brahmana families were initiated by Sri Rasikananda, a disciple of Sri Shyamananda Prabhu. Although Rasikananda was not born in a Brahmana family, there are many instances in which a born Brahmana took initiation from a person who was not born in a Brahmana family. The Brahminical symptoms are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-35, wherein it is stated, Yasya ya lakshanam proktam pungso varna vivyanjakam Yad anyatra pidrishyeta tad tenaiva vinirdeshet. If a person is born in a Shudra family, but has all the qualities of a spiritual master, he should be accepted not only as a Brahmana, but as a qualified spiritual master also. This is also the instruction of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore introduced the sacred thread ceremony for all Vaishnavas according to the rules and regulations. Sometimes a Vaishnava who is a Bhajananandi does not take the Savitra Sanskara, sacred thread initiation, but this does not mean that this system should be used for preaching work. There are two kinds of Vaishnavas, Bhajananandi and Gosjanandi. A Bhajananandi is not interested in preaching work, but a Gosjanandi is interested in spreading Krishna consciousness to benefit the people and increase the number of Vaishnavas. A Vaishnava is understood to be above the position of a Brahmana. As a preacher, he should be recognized as a Brahmana. Otherwise, there may be a misunderstanding of his position as a Vaishnava. However, a Vaishnava Brahmana is not selected on the basis of his birth, but according to his qualities. Unfortunately, those who are unintelligent do not know the difference between a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. They are under the impression that unless one is a Brahmana, he cannot be a spiritual master. For this reason only, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu makes the statement in this verse, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Keni Noi Ye Krishna Tattva Beta Se Guru Hoy. If one becomes a guru, he is automatically a Brahmana. Sometimes a caste guru says that Ye Krishna Tattva Beta Se Guru Hoy means that one who is not a Brahmana may become a Shiksha Guru or a Vartma Pradarshaka Guru, but not an initiator guru. According to such caste gurus, birth and family ties are considered foremost. However, the hereditary consideration is not acceptable to Vaishnavas. The word guru is equally applicable to the Vartma Pradarshaka Guru, Shiksha Guru, and Diksha Guru, unless we accept the principle enunciated by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. This Krishna consciousness movement cannot spread all over the world. According to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's intentions, Pritiviti Achayata Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachara Hoibe Moranam. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's cult must be preached all over the world. This does not mean that people should take to his teachings and remain Shudras or Chandalas. As soon as one is trained as a pure Vaishnava, he must be accepted as a bona fide Brahmana. This is the essence of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions in this verse. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. What a purport. Study this purport and you will understand Guru Tattva perfectly well. Text 129. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu continued, "Please do not try to cheat me, thinking of me as a learned sannyasi. Please satisfy my mind by just describing the truth of Radha and Krishna." Texts 130 and 131. Sri Rämänanda Roy was a great devotee of the Lord and a lover of God, and although his mind could not be covered by Krishna's illusory energy, and although he could understand the mind of the Lord, which was very strong and intense, Ramananda's mind became a little agitated. Purport. The perfect devotee always acts according to the desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas a materialistic man is carried away by the waves of the material energy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, Mayara vashe yacha beshe kacha habu dubu bai. A person a person under the grip of the material energy is carried away by the waves of that illusory energy. In other words, a person in the renounced world, in other words, a person in the material world is a servant of Maya. However, a person in the spiritual energy is a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Rämänanda Roy knew that nothing was unknown to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he nonetheless began to speak further on the subject because the Lord desired it. Text 132. Sri Rämänanda Roy said, "I am just like a dancing puppet, and you pull the strings. Whichever way you make me dance, I will dance." My dear Lord, my tongue is just like a stringed instrument, and you are its player. Therefore, I simply vibrate whatever arises in your mind. Text 134. Rämänanda Roy then began to speak on Krishna Tattva. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he said. He is personally the original Godhead, the source of all incarnations and the cause of all causes. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets, as well as innumerable incarnations. In the material world, also there are innumerable universes, and Krishna is the resting place for all of them. The transcendental body of Sri Krishna is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is full of all opulences and potencies, as well as all spiritual mellows. Ishvara, text 137. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigrahaha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karanam. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. Purport. This verse is from the Brahma Samhita 5.1, text 138. In the spiritual realm of Vrindavan, Krishna is the spiritual, ever-fresh Cupid. He is worshipped by the chanting of the Kama Gayatri mantra with the spiritual seed cling. Purport. Vrindavan is described in the Brahma Samhita 5.56 in this way. Shriyak kantak kantak padama purushak kalpataravo Druma bhumischintamani ganamayi toyam amritam Kata ganam natyam gamanam abhivangshi priyasaki Chidanandam jyoti padamapitad aswadyamapicha Siyatra chirabdi shavati sudabibhyas chusamahan Nimeshar dhakyo dva vrajati nahiyatra pisamayaha Bhajeshweta dvipam tamaham iha golokamitiyam Vidantas te santak shitiviladachara kapitaye katipaye. The spiritual realm of Vrindavan is always spiritual. The goddess of fortune and the gopis are always present there. They are Krishna's beloveds, and all of them are as spiritual as Krishna. In Vrindavan, Krishna is the Supreme Person and is the husband of all the gopis and the goddess of fortune. The trees in Vrindavan are wish-fulfilling trees. The land is made of touchstone, and the water is nectar. Words are musical vibrations, and all movements are dancing. The flute is the Lord's constant companion. The planet Goloka Vrindavan is self-luminous like the sun and is full of spiritual bliss. The perfection of life lies in tasting that spiritual existence. Therefore, everyone should cultivate its knowledge. In Vrindavan, spiritual cows are always supplying spiritual milk. Not a single moment is wasted there. In other words, there is no past, present, or future. Not a single particle of time is wasted. Within this material universe, the devotees worship that transcendental abode as Goloka Vrindavan. Lord Brahma himself said, "Let me worship that spiritual land where Krishna is present." This transcendental Vrindavan is not appreciated by those who are not devotees or self-realized souls, because this Vrindavan Dham is all spiritual. The pastimes of the Lord there are also spiritual. None are material. According to a prayer by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, Prarthana 1, Ada Kabi Nitai Chand Deda Karuna Ahibe, Sangsara Vasanamori Kabi Tuch Jahabe. When will Lord Nityananda have mercy upon me so that I can realize the uselessness of material pleasure? Vishaya Chadiya Ke Kabi Shuddha Habe Mane Kabi Hama Hareba Hedaba Sri Vrindavana. When will my mind be cleansed of all material dirt so that I will be able to feel the presence of spiritual Vrindavan? Rupa Raghunatha Padi Hoibi Akuti Habi Kabi Hama Bhujaba say Yugala Pariti. When will I be attracted to the instructions of the Goswamis so that I will be able to understand what is Radha and Krishna and what is Vrindavan? These verses indicate that one first has to be purified of all material desires and all attraction for fruitive activity and speculative knowledge if one wishes to understand Vrindavan. In reference to the words aprakrita, navina, madana, aprakrita, refers to that which is the very opposite of the material conception. The Mayavadis consider this to be zero or impersonal, but that is not the case. Everything in the material world is dull, but in the spiritual world, everything is alive. The desire for enjoyment is present both in Krishna and in his parts and parcels, the living entities. In the spiritual world, such desires are also spiritual. No one should mistakenly consider such desires to be material. In the material world, if one is sexually inclined and enjoys sex life, he enjoys something temporary. His enjoyment vanishes after a few minutes. However, in the spiritual world, the same enjoyment may be there, but it never vanishes. It is continuously enjoyed. In the spiritual world, such sex pleasure appears to the enjoyer to be more and more relishable with each new feature. In the material world, however, sex enjoyment becomes distasteful after a few minutes only, and it is never permanent. Because Krishna appears very much sexually inclined, he is called the new Cupid in the spiritual world. There is no material inebriety in such desire, however. Gayantam trayate yasmad Gayatri tvam tatak smrita. One who chants the Gayatri mantra is gradually delivered from the material clutches. In other words, that which delivers one from material entanglement is called Gayatri. An explanation of the Gayatri mantra can be found in the Madhya-lila, chapter 21, text 125. Kama Gayatri mantra rupa haya krishnara sarup sarda chabishak akshara tarahai ye akshara chandrahai krishna kari uday trijagat kaila kamamaya. The Kama Gayatri mantra is just like a Vedic hymn, but it is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Both are composed of 24.5 transcendental syllables. The mantra depicted in letters is also Krishna, and the mantra rises just like the moon. Due to this, there is a perverted reflection of desire in human society and among all kinds of living entities. See Madhya 21, 125 through 129. In the mantra Kling Kamadevaya Vidmahe Pushpa Banaya Dhimahi Tanno Nanga Prachodayat, Krishna is called Kamadev, Pushpabana, and Ananga. Kamadev is Madan Mohana, the deity who establishes our relationship with Krishna. Pushpabana, he who carries an arrow made of flowers, is Govinda, the personality of Godhead who accepts our devotional service. And Ananga is Gopi Janabalabha, who satisfies all the gopis and is the ultimate goal of life. This Kama Gayatri, Kling Kamadevaya Vidmahe Pushpa Banaya Dhimahi Tanno Nanga Prachodayat, simply does not belong to this material world. When one is advanced in spiritual knowledge, when one is advanced in spiritual understanding, he can worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his spiritually purified senses and fulfill the desires of the Lord. Manmana bhavamad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru, mami vaishyasi satyam te, pratijane priyosime. Always think of me, become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this, because you are my very dear friend. Bhagavad Gita 1865. In the Brahma Samhita 5:27 through 29, it is stated, Atavenu ninadasya chayi murti mayi gatihi puranti prabhaveshashu mukhabjani swayam bhuvaha gayatring gayatas tasmad arigatya sarojajaha sankritas chadi guruna dvijatam agamat tataha traya prabhuto tavidir Vigyata tatpasagadaha tushtava vedasarena stotrenanena keshavam. Then Gayatri, mother of the Vedas, having been manifested by the divine sound of Krishna's flute, entered the lotus mouth of Brahma, the self-born, through his 8 ear holes. Thus the lotus-born Brahma received the Gayatri mantra, which had sprung from the song of Sri Krishna's flute. In this way, he attained twice-born status, having been initiated by the Supreme Primal Preceptor, Godhead Himself. Enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri, which embodies the 3 Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all Vedas, with a hymn. The vibration of Krishna's flute is the origin of the Vedic hymns. Lord Brahma, who was seated on a lotus flower, heard the sound vibration of Krishna's flute and was thereby initiated by the Gayatri mantra. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we'll stop our reading there for tonight. Too sweet to resist, too hot to take, like a chutney. Hare Krishna. That's the most beautiful explanation of the Gayatri mantra I've ever heard. anywhere. Just write in Prabhupada's purport. Okay, I can see here Abhay Das Brahmachari holding the open mic in his hand, waiting for some nectar to pour out of the mouths of the assembled sages. Expressions of wonderment or whatever. Bewilderment.
There's a comment from Noel Craver.
Hare Krishna, Noel.
He says, in text 138, the description of Vrindavan is so transcendental and glorious. Everything is alive in the spiritual world and never vanishes. How perfect. Jai Shri Krishna.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Shri Krishna. That's why you have to hear it from an actually liberated soul. And Prabhupada's books contain everything, actually. People who go off in some other direction, they miss the opportunity to stay in Prabhupada's association. It's very important to stay in Prabhupada's association and hear these books again and again and again, because there are layers of understanding that is deep as it goes, and the knowledge is revealed. It's not that you can go and get it in a book. Of course, Prabhupada's books are there, but it's the person who is speaking the books, it's the person who is explaining his consciousness. Sometimes devotees take to different kinds of seminars and different kinds of explanations. They research and find different things in different scriptures and put them together and everything. But the reality is that the flow of thought of Srila Prabhupada is so powerful and transcendental that it can give you revealed knowledge just through the sound. Because the knowledge has to come through the heart of a liberated soul. And when it does, it has the potency to liberate the hearer. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Noel, for that comment.
Noel says yes to hearing again and again.
Yes, that's the process. Hare Krishna. What else have we got out there? I'd like to add one reflection. In that purport, it was very clear, that one of the purports, it was very clear that you really can't understand or penetrate into this subject matter unless you're pure, unless your heart and senses have been purified, and mind has been purified by the process of sadhana bhakti. You can't skip over sadhana bhakti just because you think you have agreed for it. You actually have to be purified by the process of following the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master from beginning, step by step, until you get actual revealed knowledge. Then you can enter, and then you can taste the greed that is needed for this knowledge to be revealed within your heart. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Well, I can see what's happening as we get deeper into this section of this chapter. The devotees are becoming so ecstatic they can't talk. Okay, that's about an hour. That's good dose. This is very dense, very intense. Better we take it in little smaller chunks and try to assimilate it. We should go over these in between the hearing sessions we do. We should go over these, read them again, the purports deeply, try to assimilate. They're just wonderful. What can I say? They're the absolute truth. Hare Krishna. Let those who have ears hear. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta Brinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Okay. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same subject matter. Hare Krishna. See you tomorrow. Hari Bol.